or that it's going to be abused. I am just trying to pad as I find my notes. I've done really well up till now. Here we go. If in doubt, return to paper. Edmund Fiuko for AUT, he has done some research based on the whai kava or kava drinking as a cultural space, because it's more than just a drink, as I'm sure Edmund will tell us. Good afternoon, Edmund.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, it's great to have you here. Is this reported renewed boom in kava a worry, or is it just a bit of a beat-up?
Yeah, I guess I think it is a concern, but at the same time, the exposure of kava in European countries such as Germany, for example, making medicinal pills and, as you mentioned, to kind of provide different methods and ways of combating insomnia, depression, anxiety, and various other illnesses. Kava has always been a traditional Pacific way of overcoming all these barriers, and so it is a concern, but at the same time, it is a delight to see kava being exposed to European countries and also in the United States of America, where there's over 100 kava bars, particularly in New York and also in Hawaii. So,
how on earth do they get into the culture there, Edmund? I mean, that's I didn't know that. It's phenomenal numbers.
Absolutely. I guess the. Like you mentioned in your introduction to kava, you took a trip to the Fiji Islands, and I'm pretty sure these Europeans have made their way to various Pacific Island nations that cultivate kava, such as Vanuatu, Samoa, Fiji, and also Tonga, to have a taste of what the kava culture is, and from there produce some research, experiments, and scientific evidence that will provide kava as a way of getting through depression and anxiety and insomnia, something that we as academics need constantly.
There's more to kava though than just the drink. I mean, that's one of the concerns, isn't it? That they talk about it being helpful with mental health, but there's a social component. There's the talking around we called it Yangona Bowl when I was in Fiji. So around the kava bowl, there's that social aspect as well. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I carried out a research exploring the experiences of New Zealand-born Tongans who participate in the whai kava or the kava drinking space. And what came out of their study was the importance of maintaining a sense of cultural identity and language in the multicultural country that we live in, such as New Zealand, Australia, and also in the US as well. It became an alternative to alcohol consumption, a diversion from youth gang affiliation, and also it bridged intergenerational harmony between elders and also young people. And so there are a lot of social and cultural benefits from these kava clubs and also other cultural practices that research has found.
I've got about 30 seconds left. What does it cost? Is it expensive, Edmund?
A couple of years ago, the 1 kg of kava here in New Zealand was roughly $30–40.
Okay, so it is quite expensive. It is. I'm sorry, I've got to cut you off there. But I'm still trying to learn my timing, not flash this time. Thank you so much, Diane and David. I really appreciated having you on the program and your input.
Most welcome.
And Jim Mora will be back with you tomorrow.
Kia ora everyone. Tonight 7-1, Team New Zealand wins the America's Cup. We speak with Helmsman Peter Burling, with CEO Grant Dalton, with skipper Glenn Ashby, and Peter Burling's very proud mum Heather. And as our hearts were racing, so was Olympian turned cycler Simon van Veldhoven. His heart rate peaked at 190. The man who'd never even been on a yacht, really, pedalling New Zealand home. Also tonight, police reopened their investigation into Todd Barclay, the bizarre court appearance of former breaker Cory Webster. The Hurricanes welcome the Lions. We go live to Westpac Trust Stadium, and the South Island opens its first community fridge. We'll be back after the news at 5.
RNZ News at 5 o'clock. Good afternoon, I'm Anna Thomas. The Prime Minister says it's up to Todd Barclay whether he wants to stay on as an MP while the police investigate allegations he made a secret recording of an electorate staffer. The police announced today that they've reopened their investigation into the matter, having closed it last year because of insufficient evidence. The Clutha Southland MP said last week he would not seek re-election in September, but he remains an MP until then. Bill English, who gave a statement to the original investigation, says he'll cooperate if called on again. He told reporters today it would be good to see the matter finalised.
There's been several attempts to resolve this personal dispute, and I would hope this does.
Do you know more now than you did when you made your first statement?
Look, I'm not going to add to the comments I've already made.
Prime Minister Bill English. The board of the New Zealand-owned insurance company Tower has given its backing to a takeover by the Australian giant Suncorp. Suncorp, which already has a stake of nearly 20% in Tower, raised its share offer by 10 cents yesterday, easily trumping an earlier bid by a Canadian company. Our business editor Giles Beckford has more.
Tower's been struggling for some time in a competitive market and was either going to have to restructure to get more money or find a white knight. Its board says Suncorp's bid, which values the company at $236 million, is the best one going and is fair to all shareholders. The proposed takeover needs Commerce Commission clearance because of Suncorp being a big player in the New Zealand market through its Vero, AA Insurance and Asteron brands. This is Giles Beckford.
The government is likely to pitch in to help cover the cost of Team New Zealand's Welcome Home Parade. The New Zealand syndicate won the America's Cup in Bermuda this morning, securing a 7-1 victory over holders Team USA. The Sports Minister, Jonathan Coleman, says the government has previously split the cost of similar celebrations with the Auckland Council.
It's not a large amount of money in the scheme of things, and pretty sure that's going to happen. So look, there's going to be a good celebration to welcome them home, and really looking forward to it.
Jonathan Coleman says he imagines the total cost will be between $200,000 and $250,000, similar to the cost of the Rugby World Cup party 2 years ago. The victorious team members arrive back in Auckland tomorrow week. The Crown has pointed to many technological advances being developed in New Zealand that will help this country reduce its greenhouse gas emissions. It made the argument at the High Court in Wellington today, where a Hamilton law student, Sarah Thompson, is taking a legal challenge over the way in which this country's climate targets have been set. Here's our court reporter Anne-Marie May.
Ms Thompson's lawyer yesterday questioned the progress being made on technological ways of reducing emissions. However, the Crown lawyer Peter Gunn said several New Zealand scientific institutions were working on that, including the modification of cattle to produce less methane gas and improving cattle feed. He said even if this country stopped all emissions overnight, the impact on global climate change would not be discernible. This is Anne-Marie May.
The United States says Syria is preparing for another chemical weapons attack, and it's warning President Bashar al-Assad that he and his military will pay a heavy price if it goes ahead. From Washington, Peter Bowers reports.
The White House statement is brief but chilling. It says the United States has identified activities that are similar to preparations the Assad regime made before its chemical weapons attack earlier this year. No further details are given. More than 80 people were killed in a rebel-held town in northwestern Syria in April. The attack was widely condemned and blamed on the Syrian government. President Bashar al-Assad said the incident was fabricated.
Peter Bowers reporting. A community fridge opened today in New Brighton, the first of its kind in Christchurch. New Brighton was hit hard by the earthquakes, and the City Council is still grappling with how to improve the suburb. With this initiative, cafes, supermarkets and residents are giving free food to people in need. The resident behind the idea, Trudy Burrows, says many local people live in poverty and go hungry. All of the donated food is held in a fridge and pantry inside a purpose-built garden shed near the town centre. Ms Burrows says she hopes the idea can be replicated throughout the city. It's 5:04. In sport, Team New Zealand's chief executive has revealed the team were on the verge of closing down after their crushing America's Cup defeat by Team USA in San Francisco in 2013. Following today's triumphant reclaiming of the Cup in Bermuda, Grant Dalton said it almost never came to this because of the changes Team USA made to the rules in the aftermath of San Francisco.
In fact, in my drafts, which I've kept since October 2015, which I wrote on a flight back to England, I keep it as a sort of a motivation, as a draft of the press release to shut the team. We had a directors meeting that afternoon. We decided we'd shut. I worked through that night and came up with some money by daybreak, and here we are.
Grant Dalton. The Hurricanes and All Black fullback Nehe Milner-Skudder says the home team backline will be looking to show their class against the British and Irish Lions in Wellington tonight, with fellow All Blacks Julian Savea, Geordie Barrett and Ngane Alomape returning to the team. Milner-Skudder is hoping for some space for the backs to run.
The way we like to play, it's pretty exciting brand of footy, but like Bordy touched on, we've got to make sure we nail things around possession and making sure we, they always say, earn the right to play. And I know the forwards will be going gangbusters to get us front football, and the backs can play off that.
Nehe Milner-Skudder, the game kicks off at 25-8, and that's the news.
The New Zealanders paddling into the history books.
Fantastic, it doesn't get any better. We've done it, history.
It's a hell of a lot nicer walking up to the dais winning the event than coming second, that's for sure.
Oh my God, it's so amazing. I'm so happy.
To be able to come here to Bermuda and, be part of an incredibly special team and bring that trophy back home, is something that, I think I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Making history, Guy Aspinall and Susie Ferguson, morning reports, weekdays from 6. Then on 9 to noon, should fast food chains like Pizza Hut and McDonald's be made to put health star ratings on their food? And after 10, children's writer and illustrator Lisala Halapua on his first picture book, based on a Tongan fable. Join me, Catherine Ryan, on 9 to noon after Morning Report on RNZ National.
And now the short forecast from the Met Service to midnight tomorrow for Northland to Waitomo, including Coromandel Bay of Plenty and the Central High Country. Mainly fine with showers about the Coromandel Peninsula tomorrow. Gisborne and Hawke's Bay, a few showers about Gisborne and the Wairoa district, fine elsewhere. Taranaki to Wellington also wided upper. Cloud increasing this evening with isolated showers becoming fine north of Wellington and wided upper tomorrow afternoon. Nelson and Marlborough fine with cloud increasing tomorrow and scattered showers in the evening. For Canterbury, a few spots of rain clearing tomorrow afternoon. Buller and Westland mainly fine with occasional rain. For Otago, Southland and Fiordland, isolated showers becoming fine with areas of frost or fog tomorrow morning. And for the Chatham Islands, cloudy periods. RNZ National, it is 8 minutes past 5. You're listening to Checkpoint with John Campbell.
Thank you very much indeed, Anna Thomas. Coming up on the programme tonight, police commence, and I quote, a re-investigation of allegations that the private communications of an individual were intercepted by Mr Todd Barclay MP. Jane Patterson will look at that for us. But first tonight, of course, the America's Cup, back in New Zealand hands and soon in the country itself for the first time in 14 years. 7-1 in the end, although as lots of you are pointing out, technically it was 8-1 because Team New Zealand started a point behind. A triumph for the team, its designers and its builders, and as he has been throughout the regatta, Todd Nile was there.
Occasionally the fans were vocal, but mostly not. We're on leg 5 of 7 of what could be the race, and apart from the loud television commentary, you could hear a pin drop amongst the crowd here through much of this race as the Team New Zealand supporters almost don't dare to cheer at this point. But when the boat crossed the line and the cup became New Zealand's, the emotion flowed.
Overwhelmed. You can't describe it. My husband's been working for years for this, and it's finally New Zealand's cup.
We've been following the cup since '86. Plastic fantastic, and now we have Black Magic.
I saw a bit of a tear there, didn't I?
Oh my gosh, that was so emotional. This is. I don't know, I was quietly confident today was the day, and I think that's why.
The only other time Team New Zealand won the cup overseas was the first time in San Diego 22 years ago. the enormity still sinking in for the competition's youngest helmsman, Peter Burling.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's sunk in yet, to be honest, but we're just blown away by the, being able to get it done today. Bermuda turned on an amazing day, amazing weather, and to be able to get it done now and be able to enjoy it over the next couple of days before we head home is an incredibly special moment.
His Olympic sailing partner Blair Tuke revelling in succeeding in such a complicated campaign.
Especially between the Olympics and getting here, we were very much trying to develop the boat and trying to get a fast boat, and it was quite different than just Pete and I at the Olympics. But once we got here and got into the racing, especially this last couple of weeks, we knew their boat was going well, and we knew our boat was up for the challenge. So then it came down to what we could do.
The pair in their mid-20s were part of a new generation, which veteran coach Murray Jones thinks was the winning difference.
The Team New Zealand team was very new, young in some respects, and I guess Oracle and some of the other teams were probably a little more stuck in their ways and didn't adapt or look for new areas to develop like Team New Zealand did.
The team's boss, Grant Dalton, who at one point thought the campaign would have to be abandoned, says innovation was also a big factor.
It's a cultural thing, and that's very much who we are as New Zealanders. It's a philosophy in terms of our design that we set in motion on day one. It's being prepared to think outside the square and not accept norm as the way it should be. And it's a bunch of very, very talented guys that have worked incredibly hard under pretty extreme circumstances at times.
Dalton's not giving much detail of how the next cup might look. The challenger of record, which the team will work with on new rules, is Italian club CVS, whose team is Luna Rossa, which has been both a rival and a partner of Team New Zealand's over past campaigns. The cup will be in New Zealand, more than 2 years away, and Dalton's hinted it won't be the current high-tech foiling catamarans.
I think it's important that we don't take away from the yachting aspect of it. It's still a race of yachtsmen. And I think just pumping oil around a boat isn't necessarily yachting in one sense. So I think we've got to balance all those things off. But certainly the boats are spectacular, they're fast. Whether they, in a decent nor'easterly off Rangi with the tide going out, would go too well, I'm not so sure. They might go straight down the mine.
And what about the futures for the two helmsmen who battled it out? Oracle Team USA's Jimmy Spithill.
I love the game, I love being involved with the team, and look, I'll do anything to help the team win, or whatever team it is. It's been one hell of a ride.
And Peter Burling.
I haven't made any plans yet as to what my future holds, but no, it's definitely been a pretty busy few years, and we'll definitely be looking for a little bit of time off.
Not just yet. The team stays in Bermuda until Sunday, arriving back in Auckland on Wednesday next week. And then it starts all over again. In Bermuda, mo te hotaka o te ahiahi, ko Todd Nile tēnei.
While family, friends and hardcore supporters travelled to Bermuda to yell the team on in person, a lot of shouting was being done at TV screens throughout New Zealand this morning. Many yacht clubs opened their doors to the public so those without a Sky subscription could watch live or simply be in the company of other excited fans. Our reporter Zach Fleming was among them.
You'd never guess it was 5:30 in the morning. The sun hadn't even started rising, but the drinks were already flowing at yacht clubs across Auckland.
Oh, fabulous. Elated. Amazing. It's just fabulous. Can't wait till it comes. Yay! It is bloody brilliant! Woo!
Good reason to get the kids out of bed at 4:45 this morning, so they didn't argue. We're here.
At the Royal Yacht Squadron beneath the harbour bridge, hundreds of yachties, boat builders and fans filled the car park by 4:30.
Both. I believe that Peter Burling's the best sailor in the world now, and I think a lot of people would back me out there.
It's thrilled. The cup's back where it belongs, back home in New Zealand.
I am over the moon, and I bet they are too. I'm just so wish I was over there right now, but hell yeah, I'm so over the moon.
The squadron is where the cup will sit for the next few years, so naturally it was pumping. But smaller clubs scattered across Auckland were packed out too. At the Royal Akarana Yacht Club on Tamaki Drive, halfway between Mission Bay and the CBD, locals were on the edge of their seats.
Popping some bubbles, guys?
Yes, definitely. It's a great day for New Zealand sailing, 17 years in the making.
Almost like man on the moon, not just a great day for New Zealand sailing, but a great day for New Zealand, right?
It is, yeah. It's it brands New Zealand as a great innovative country with great sports people and great demeanour. Usually the Kiwis understate themselves, and this proves ourselves in the world stage.
At long last, again.
Peter Burling and Blair Tuke spent time training out of Akarana for their 2 Olympic golds. Members there were especially invested.
So we know them well, we support them well, they're just calm and collected. It was a great challenge that we put up from New Zealand, and it's so amazing that the Cup's coming home.
I knew they were going to win today. I knew it.
Oh my God, shaking. It was just too exciting, but you know, you have to take your hat off to Jimmy Spittle. He's somebody who doesn't give up, so until they crossed that finish line, my nerves started to settle about then.
My brother Rob Salthouse, that's his baby, the wing, and I'm very proud of him.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So he must be pretty stoked, you too?
Oh yeah, very emotional moment for me right now. Many America's Cups he's done, and he's just wanted to bring that cup home, so it's been awesome.
And at the Maritime Museum on the Viaduct, it was a full house. Around 300 people cheered the boys home.
Team New Zealand's principal sponsor is conveniently an airline, so Emirates will fly the old mug back to Auckland. Then Auckland Mayor Phil Goff says he's hoping the government fronts up 50-50 cost of a massive parade, similar size to when the All Blacks won the Rugby World Cup.
22 years ago, I took my kids when they were 8, 10 and 12 to welcome home the Cup with Sir Peter Blake, and that's something that they've remembered all of their lives, and we need to welcome them home in the same way. I've had some early discussions with the Minister for Sport, ticker tape parade up Queen Street. That'd be a very suitable way of welcoming the boys and the team home.
Has the government given you a nod that they'll put up some money for us?
I think, with the All Blacks, the Auckland City went 50-50 with government. That seems like a fair arrangement to me, and I hope that seems fair to government.
And this afternoon, Sports Minister Jonathan Coleman said, no problem, happy to go halves.
It's not a large amount of money in the scheme of things, and pretty sure that's going to happen. So look, there's going to be a good celebration to welcome them home. The World Cup Welcome Home Parade, I think, was about 200 to 250,000 all up. So, you're talking about that order of money split between the council and the government.
Club captain of the Royal Akarana Yacht Club, Mark Taylor, says the win will help bring through our next skipper.
The interest in water sports in New Zealand has always been great, but the extra focus and excitement from the America's Cup is inspiration for the next Pete Burling coming through. Pete Burling went to the Olympics when he was 17 years old, so like all sport, bringing youth into the game and making it easy for youth to be involved is a key part of that development curve to keep New Zealand at the top of all sports.
The team's expected back next week. A date for a parade will be announced soon. And if you've a few yachties in your office, expect sore heads in the morning.
Looking forward to a sleep in
now? No, I think we're looking forward to an all-day party.
For Checkpoint, Zach Fleming.
Team New Zealand's helmsman is Peter Burling. At 26, he's the youngest winning helmsman in the 166-year history of the Cup. He was also the youngest sailor ever to represent New Zealand at the Olympics. And at Rio, he became the youngest gold medal winning skipper in the history of the 49ers. Full stop. All of this is built on a love of yachting that began in his childhood, a singular dedication to sailing, an almost intuitive sense of the right place on the water to be, and a personality so utterly unflappable that less than 3 hours after he'd won the America's Cup, this is how he came to the phone.
G'day, John. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good.
You're magnificently dry, aren't you? Did your heart beat even a little bit faster today?
Oh, yeah, it was obviously an amazing day out on the water. I think we were, probably set up for a massive battle over the next kind of couple of days, and to be able to do it in the style we did and get it done today is something that's incredibly special for us.
It's so special. 7-1 against Oracle, who are in every respect an imposing challenger with all that history and all their sense of confidence. But I have a sneaking suspicion that you knew you could do this, right, all along.
Oh, I don't think we would have come here if we didn't think we could do it. It's something that this whole team's been working towards this goal, of coming here and winning what turned out to be having to win what turned out to be 8 races, and also that last race. And I think coming into these last couple of rounds, it was something that we were all incredibly excited about. The fact we got this far and the fact that we now had the opportunity to do it. It's a really tricky sporting event to win, and it's obviously really hard to get past the first rounds as well. And we were trying to develop and grow as a group through those rounds. And I think the way we got pushed by the other challenges, really held us in pretty good stead for where we are today.
Yeah, it did. I'm also interested in how late you arrived. You stayed back and you stayed back, and you really were a very singular kind of camp, doing your own thing, just working and learning, and that stood you in good stead, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I think that stood us in really good stead. For ourselves, we wouldn't have been able to do what we did unless we stayed in New Zealand. We've got an absolutely amazing base back there, and the marine industry, really gets behind us. So, we just physically wouldn't have been able to get the boat on the water and come up here any earlier. So, to be honest, we didn't have many options there. But I think the other thing we did really well is as soon as we got here, not as soon as we got here, the whole time we've been keeping a really good eye on, how people have been sailing here and how well they've been sailing, what they've been developing and improving on. And, as soon as we got here, we actually got straight into some races, straight into lining up with other boats and, checked in to see where we were weak and strong. The amount of improvements we made, from that first day we arrived to that last race we sailed today is, pretty mind-blowing.
Can we go back to Welcome Bay, Tauranga, the estuary? You are, 6 years old? You've got an old wooden Optimist called Jelly Tip, is that right? Heavy as hell?
Yeah, it seems a little while ago now, but, I'm really proud of, being a Kiwi, growing up in Tauranga, and that's the amazing opportunities we got as kids. We feel pretty privileged to come from where we come from. We do a lot of travelling around the world now, and there's not many times that you'd, want to be from anywhere else.
But it also speaks to the lovely Cinderella narrative in the story, because people always talk about the America's Cup being a rich man's sport and all that kind of stuff, but you, and Blair too, started from the most wonderful, childlike roots of sailing in New Zealand, didn't you? The very, very beginning.
Yeah, for sure. I think both of us feel just as privileged to be in this point. We're part of an absolutely amazing team, and the amount of fun and enjoyment we've had along this journey, it's full credit to that. And just like the Olympic campaign, we wanted to make sure we had fun along the way and really enjoyed the journey. And the amazing group of people we had here, with us have made that so easy. So it's just a massive team effort. The adversity we've had to go through, with the capsize and a lot of other little breakages and issues, to keep the boat on its feet, to keep making it quicker day by day, and to be able to take that final race in the fashion we did, it was absolutely an incredibly special moment for us, myself and the sailing team. Not just the fans we've got back home, but the amount of people that have worked tirelessly for 3 or 4 years, trying to get us to a point where we've got a really fast boat and could challenge to win this one.
Peter Burling. In a way, Peter Burling was heading to this kind of on-the-water triumph from a very early age, and we'll have more on that later. But Simon van Veldhoven won a bronze medal on the track at the Olympics. That's on a bike. His entire experience of sailing was an outward bound expedition. And then some genius had the idea of making the grinders on the Team New Zealand boat use their legs rather than their arms. So this morning, in part, Team New Zealand cycled their way to victory. 4 cycle grinders pedalling so hard that Simon van Veldhoven had a pulse rate of 190. And sitting at home, his dad, who'd been pretty sure his son was a cyclist, was watching his boy win the America's Cup.
You'd have told me 12 months ago he's going to win the America's Cup, I would have said you're mad.
Well, I think everyone would, wouldn't they? Bloody mad.
Who would have thought? It's just incredible.
Yeah, what a remarkable young man. And what a stroke of genius to have him on the boat, a cyclist on the boat.
I know, it was a stroke of genius. Yes, absolutely. And they picked the right guy to do it for them, I think.
Yeah. Well, he's certainly got a big, strong heart. What did it get up to today?
Well, I think his max is 190 odd beats, or 195, and he was at 95%, 99% rather.
So his heart was beating 3 times a second.
Yes, I hadn't worked that out, but you're right.
That's insane, isn't it? It's insane.
Yeah, it's slightly concerning
for his old dad. Where are you? Where are you, Paul?
Oh, we're in Palmerston North, the sailing mecca.
Yeah, absolutely, hard out. And so, where did you watch it this morning?
We watched it at home. Got up at 4 o'clock and had a breakfast, and we watched it at home with my wife and other two daughters. My other son, he's in Auckland, so it was just mum and dad and two sisters.
And what did it feel like?
Oh, incredible! It's exhilarating. You just don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, you don't, do you? It's quite an extraordinary thing. And also, I mean, this is the other thing about you and Simon and his incredible story is that if he'd been a yachty, you would have had some preparation for this, right? You would have watched him sail as he was growing. But he was a bloody cyclist.
I know. So when they pitch poled, I thought, my God, this is all over. But apparently, if you're a yachty, a seasoned yachty, pitch poling's quite run of the mill. Well, it wasn't to me.
No. So have you been talking to Simon about the whole experience, how bizarre it's been, the pitch poling, the whole business of actually cycling on water?
Yeah, we went over there to Bermuda, so we watched them race the Louis Vuitton, and then we came home. So Simon was in regular contact. Well, he came around and saw us every night we were over there, and I've spoken to him this morning.
And what did he say? What did he say to you?
Oh, he just said there's such a relief, and he was tired. He was having a few beers, and he'd just been with the Oracle boys. So I think I don't think they'll be out too late tonight somehow.
No, he'll be buggered, won't he?
Yes. Yeah. Well, when your heart's beating at 190 clicks, it must text you somewhere.
You know what I love about this story is that because it's all about technology and money and, carbon fibre and all of that kind of stuff, but it's also about your boy's heart and about his... It is, isn't it? And there's something wonderful and old-fashioned and reassuring about the fact that the America's Cup can also still be won by just strength and tenacity and a human body.
Yes. Yeah, well... Simon shared that position with Joe Sullivan, the Olympic gold, and because it's such a taxing position, they can only do one race a day. So when it was two races a day, they'd go turnabout, Simon first and Joe second. So I think Joe's heart rate gets up to that sort of level.
Nuts. Yeah.
The young man's game.
Yeah, that's the truth. I think they'd be in trouble if you and I were their cyclists, wouldn't they?
Big trouble. I don't think we'd get up on the foil somehow.
It's lovely to talk to you, Paul. Congratulations from New Zealand's new sailing capital, Palmerston North.
Well, we get plenty of wind here. We just need water.
Simon's very chuffed dad. Team New Zealand CEO is Grant Dalton. I got hold of him shortly after he just touched the America's Cup for the very first time.
Well, it's interesting because I've been, with Emirates Team New Zealand for a while now, but I've never got near it. I've never been within 50 metres of it, and I've certainly never touched it. I didn't feel I earned the right. So that was actually a bit of a moment, for me, and certainly for a lot of the guys who did exactly the same thing, to actually, pick it up, hold it, and know that you were now the new custodian. And I say custodian because that's all you are, and we need to treat it that way, that, it's ours if we can hold on to it through fair means only. But it was pretty surreal, and locking it away as we just did before someone dropped it or decided to play touch rugby with it felt pretty good.
You used the word custodian and you also used the word fair, defending it by fair means. What do you mean, Grant? What will Team New Zealand do differently as the defender?
Well, certainly there's a lot of good things about what has happened here. It's not to say that everything's bad, and I don't mean it in any shape or form. But I believe as custodian, it's a privilege to hold the America's Cup. I do not see it as a right. And I think Sir Peter Blake saw that as well after they won it in San Diego in '95, and they put together a very, very strong defence and defended it well in 2000. And it was fair. I don't, to this day, have heard anyone say that the America's Cup, while it was in New Zealand, wasn't fair. And so, we take a leaf from that book. And in recent years, I mean, everybody's quite aware how I've fought against the establishment because I don't think it's been fair. And we'll make sure that what I perceive as wrongs are put to right going forward.
And what are the most important wrongs? Where do you want to do better and be better than this defender has been?
Well, the defender, and some teams to a point, but particularly the defenders use money as a weapon. Now, this is the America's Cup, and it isn't going to ever be cheap. This is never going to be a dirty little beach regatta, not while we have it. But money should not be a weapon. I mean, there has to be a barrier that you can't get in and be competitive, but you shouldn't be able to just simply completely outspend everybody at all costs. You should not be able to manipulate the rules after the rules are set. Now, sometimes rules need altering. I understand because you haven't quite got it right. But to manipulate the rules as you go forward to your own ends using your competitors because they're in your pocket as a means to help you, I just fundamentally don't agree with it. It doesn't happen in any other sport. This is special. The deed of gift, is the founding document. And I also believe quite strongly in the deed of gift and, what it says and what it has now was portrayed for the America's Cup for 160 or whatever it is years now. So really those fundamentals of fair play, fair cost, and the ideals of the deed of gift of the way it was written when it was the America's Cup was donated to the New York Yacht Club all those years ago need to be upheld in my belief.
You've only just won it, and you must be just so elated, so happy, so full of joy because, boy, it's been a hard road to this path, and today is a day of great triumph. But there's already a challenger of record, right? Luna Rosa have already said, right, here we go. And so the defence starts now, doesn't it? And how will it look? What boats will you be racing? Do you know that stuff yet? What will the next America's Cup look like in Auckland?
Yes, we know basically what it will look like because as much as you hate doing this planning, you actually have to do this planning. But today really, John, is a day for celebrating, an amazing New Zealand win.
Yeah.
And with the guys, and that can wait. I mean, I'll give you an example. Last time we didn't hear a boo out of the defender for 10 months. Well, that ain't going to happen with us. Within days and certainly by weeks, it will be laid out. The sport needs stability. It's very fragmented. Those who are involved in the sport will understand what I mean. You have some fantastic events, the Vendée Globe, the Volvo Ocean Race, which is very dear to me, and the Whitbread as it was before that, and the America's Cup, plus others, PP52. So I think the sport is guilty of being, let's say, fragmented, and I think it needs, the America's Cup is the pinnacle of the sport, and it needs to be united more. And people need to be encouraged to enter. I think also at the heart of what we believe is this youth culture, which must be encouraged. One of the things I think that's been done very well here is the Youth America's Cup, and we would like that to continue. And we've had initial discussions already about that with their sponsors. So, all these great things to look forward to. It's certainly in the nice problems to have. But I'm very aware of what Sir Peter Blake once said to me. He said, the only problem with winning the America's Cup is you've got to defend it. So there's a lot of work ahead.
One final question. There's a photo of you on Twitter this morning doing the rounds with a whole lot of Ngāti Whātua kids, young Ngāti Whātua sailors who you have and the team have supported to take up yachting. And I just wonder, what does this mean, holding this event in New Zealand, bringing the America's Cup home, all the challenger teams coming in, all those great sailors, all that great technology? What does it mean for little boys and girls in New Zealand who dream of being yachties?
Yeah, I think actually what you're saying there is really important. Like, the way the Cup has been in recent years, I would not be proud if my young son wanted to do the America's Cup. That would not make me proud. And it was not like that when it was in New Zealand. And you know, I saw a note in I think in the Herald this morning about Wyatt Crockett as one of a great All Blacks. As a kid, was inspired by the America's Cup when it was won in '95 or 2000. God, he wouldn't have been very old. And we need to rebrand it that way. And the way to do that is for it to be fair, to be inclusive, and to be fun.
You're at Checkpoint on RNZ. That was Grant Dalton, Team New Zealand CEO, of course. Coming up on the program, the police reopen their investigation into Todd Barclay. We'll have the latest on this. British Prime Minister Theresa May strikes an agreement to prop up her minority government. Anusha Bradley's here with business news. Former Breakers player Cory Webster appears in court charged with assault after repeatedly tugging a man's beard. But before all of that, here's Anna Thomas with RNZ Headlines.
The Prime Minister, Bill English, says it's up to Todd Barclay whether he wants to stay on as an MP while the police investigate allegations he made a secret recording of an electorate staffer. The police have reopened an inquiry into the matter. The Clutha Southland MP will not seek re-election in September. Bill English says he will cooperate if called on again. The board of the insurance company Tower says a takeover offer by the Australian giant Suncorp is the best one going. Suncorp, which already has a stake of nearly 20% in Tower, raised its share offer by 10 cents yesterday, easily trumping an earlier bid by a Canadian company. The government is likely to help cover the cost of Team New Zealand's Welcome Home parade. The New Zealand syndicate won the America's Cup in Bermuda this morning. Sports Minister Jonathan Coleman says he imagines the total cost of a parade will be between $200,000 and $250,000, similar to the cost of the Rugby World Cup party 2 years ago. Two of the foreign volunteers in Labour's botched intern scheme may have broken immigration laws. More than 80 young people, mostly from the United States, came to New Zealand as part of a Campaign for Change program run by Labour's former Chief of Staff Matt McCartan. Labour's head office took over the program last week. The party said two of the volunteers had been here on incorrect visas. Both individuals left the program last week. The American firm that supplied cladding used on London's Grenfell Tower says it has ended global sales of the product for use in high-rise blocks. Connick says it is discontinuing sales of Rhinobond PE for tower blocks due to issues identified by the fire, which is feared to have killed at least 79 people. The British government says 75 buildings have now failed fire safety tests, everyone tested so far. And that's the news.
Thanks so much, Anna. Let's turn to business news now with Anusha Bradley, who's in the Auckland studio with us. What's the latest on the Tower takeover that Anna was just briefly talking about?
Yeah, so yesterday we talked about how there was an Australian and a Canadian company both bidding for Tower. Well, today Tower has accepted Suncorp, that's Australian company Suncorp's offer of $1.40 a share. That beats the rival offer from the Canadian company Fairfax Financial, which was $1.17. It still needs approval from the Commerce Commission, and also 75% of Tower's shareholders need to approve it as well. So it's not all signed on the dotted line just yet. But interestingly, Tower's shares were in a trading halt until the decision today, and they resumed trading at 3 p.m. and their shares about 15%. So it's a sign that maybe shareholders do like the deal.
Okay. Tegel has tripled its profit, Tegel chicken?
Yeah, good news for Tegel. New Zealanders love chicken. We're eating more and more of it every year, 5% growth a year apparently, and we're exporting more of it as well. It's all really good news for Tegel, which is the largest poultry producer in the country. So last year it made a profit of $34.2 million. It's not as good as it seems though. Tegel says lower chicken prices here in New Zealand is squeezing its margins, and it's blaming those lower prices for not producing the profits it said it would make when it first listed on the New Zealand Stock Exchange in May last year.
That's right. There was a pretty aggressive sales pitch attached to that listing,
yeah, it was
wasn't
a
there?
big listing.
Yep.
So back then it said it would make $44 million this year. It's only made $34 million, so a bit disappointing. On the upside, the CEO thinks that the prices will stabilise. The market's growing, we're eating more chicken, and it's also investing a lot in automation, better machines, better factories, reducing costs there, and it's growing its free-range products. It now accounts for a quarter of its sales, and it can sell a lot more, sell that for high prices as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Share market operator NZX may be headed for a form of a shake-up, Anusha?
Yeah, some might say it's long overdue.
Yep.
So the NZX has been criticised for not attracting companies to list on the market, especially at smaller markets. It's got two smaller markets. One's called Next and one's AX. They were created a couple of years ago. It was created just to attract smaller companies, and it's just failed to do that. So the problem is that companies say that it's just too expensive and cumbersome to do this. They often choose to list in Australia instead. Yeah. And NZX is also facing competition from peer-to-peer markets like Snowball, where it's really easy to raise money and not quite cheaply as well. So the NZX's new chief executive, Mark Peterson, he was appointed a couple of months ago. He's mooted the idea of combining these smaller markets into a single one and making it more attractive. It's now going to consult on these ideas and decide what to do.
As you say, possibly not before time. What happened on the markets today?
The New Zealand stock market, the NZX 50 gained 30 points to a fresh new high of 7,626. The Australian market's down 6 points to 5,713. On the currency markets, the Kiwi dollar's buying 73.03 US cents and 96.07 Australian.
Anusha Bradley, thank you very much indeed. It's coming up to 90 minutes to 6. The police have reopened their investigation into whether Todd Barclay secretly recorded staff in his electorate office, a controversy that has ended the National MP's political career, or is in the process of doing so. He's not seeking re-election, of course. And the Prime Minister, Bill English, remains under pressure over his role in the employment dispute. Certainly a phrase that's being widely used in his former Clutha Southland electorate that went badly wrong. Last year, a police investigation was launched after a Gore office staffer laid a complaint, but that hit a brick wall when Mr Barclay refused to cooperate. Here's our political editor, Jane Patterson.
Todd Barclay fell on his sword last week and announced he would not seek re-election in September. National's been hoping that would bring an end to the matter, but today police announced they've relaunched their investigation after looking back at a range of comments made and information that came to light last week. They've already started talking to a number of people they believe have relevant information. The Prime Minister, Bill English, says he will cooperate with the investigation and hopes it will put the dispute to rest once and for all.
There's been several attempts to resolve this personal dispute, and I would hope this does.
Do you know more now than you did when you made your first statement?
Look, I'm not going to add to the comments I've already made.
A close supporter and friend of Mr Barclay's, Invercargill MP Sarah Dowie, was asked whether she'd be advising him to cooperate with the new police investigation.
Look, I haven't spoken to Todd about the police inquiry, so no, I haven't advised him anything with respect to that.
Do you think he should cooperate?
Yeah, well, it'll be up to him to take legal advice and then to go from there.
In Parliament, the New Zealand First Leader Winston Peters asked Mr English about various statements he's made over the past week.
Which statement is he standing by today? Is it? It's never been established that the alleged incident around the recording actually occurred, or it was avoidable, it did not need to have all these implications, or I don't know what happened.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, as I said, those statements were not made in my ministerial capacity, and in the light of police reopening their investigation, I don't intend to add to it.
Then it was the Labour leader Andrew Little's turn.
Bearing in mind his own statement as Prime Minister that ministers should be truthful, can he be straight with me? Does he know if any person suggested Todd Barclay destroy the tapes that were the subject of a now reopened police investigation, and if so, who was that person?
Insofar as there may be Prime Ministerial responsibility, Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I certainly have no ministerial responsibility for that, although that leader has responsibility for 85 free foreign workers.
Undeterred, Andrew Little had more questions about the substance of the recordings.
Given the contents of the tapes have now been revealed to concern Todd Barclay and sex and drug matters, does he accept the tapes exist, and when was he aware of their contents?
Insofar as there may be Prime Minister responsibility, Right Honourable
Mr Speaker,
Prime Minister.
as I've said, I've no comment to add to what comments been made, but the member should, I would hope, be as forensic with his own statements about the free foreign labour and the idea that it was nothing to...
Order.
Mr Little says Mr English needs to be more forthcoming with the public.
This is a Prime Minister now and a government that is desperate to duck for cover and try to absolve themselves of responsibility. I don't think they can. This has been around for 18 months. It involves a National Party MP and allegations against him, and I think a failure of leadership on the part of not just the party but ministers as well, who ought to have known better.
The police say the new investigation will be overseen by a senior detective. They say at this stage they can't put a time frame on how long it may take. From Parliament for Checkpoint, Jane Patterson.
Feedback coming in with the time almost at 5:45. Please give us a break. Stop whittering on about the America's Cup. Sick to death of it, says Hugh McMillan. As much as I like what Grant Dalton said, for the Cup to be really inclusive and inspiring, then Team New Zealand must ensure that more women and people of colour are involved. The current team is almost exclusively white men, says Anthony from Wellington. Thank you for your feedback. We really like hearing from you. Text us 2101 or email checkpoint@radionz.co.nz. Former Breakers star Cory Webster is known for his action on the court, but today he appeared in a court of law charged with pulling a man's beard and being involved in a bar fight. Webster denied the assault charges when he appeared at the North Shore District Court today. Another more serious charge of injuring with intent was dismissed after the police failed to find the witness. Our court reporter Edward Gay filed this report.
Michael Tilton was running the open mic night at Takapuna Bar on Auckland's North Shore. He'd also grown a beard and was offering to shave it off to raise money for Starship Hospital. Mr Tilton said when he approached Cory Webster and his friends at a table outside, Webster tugged on his beard.
After I got pulled on the, if this is in word for words pretty close, was I can't expect to have a beard like that and not have a white beard like that and not get it pulled on.
And who said that?
I believe it was Cory said that, and one of his friends also made a comment around the same kind of remarks, which is, it's a white beard, we're going to pull it.
Mr Tilton said his beard was pulled up to 5 times and Webster's friend also joined in. He said at one point Webster used so much force that he was forced to go down on one knee. Mr Tilton was asked what it felt like.
It was fairly embarrassing, humiliating and painful physically. So, trying to explain a good deed we're doing for kids and having people completely mock you and then rip your beard out.
Mr Tilton said he also pulled on Webster's goatee beard. He said later he ran his fingers through his own beard and a large amount of hair came out in his hands. The next day, bar staff found more hair.
And like I said, there's a lot more that isn't in the photo. I turned up to the bar the next day and their words were, we thought a dog or something was sleeping outside. We kept finding hair everywhere.
Under cross-examination, Webster's lawyer Fletcher Pilditch asked if his client had also talked about doing charity work for Starship, but Mr Tilton denied that.
The evidence of Mr Webster is going to be that after this beard pulling, which he thought was a bit of a joke between you, you gave each other a high five and you went off.
Why would I give someone a high five after pulling on my beard like that?
Mr Pilditch told Mr Tilton that evidence will be backed up by Webster's friend and his partner.
I say that is biased and unreal.
Well, rather than commenting on her as a witness, Mr Tilton, you can just say whether you agree with it or not.
I completely disagree.
The court also heard from Jung Min Nam Kung, who'd been out with a friend when he noticed a brawl outside Takapuna Bar. He said 4 men were fighting, one man knocked another out and began stomping on his head. He saw another man who had a bar stool.
As soon as I saw him pick it up and he was aiming towards the spectators, the bar manager and the victim that got knocked out, first instinct was to try and put the stool down.
Mr Nam Kung said the man taunted him, asking for a fight before he was put in a chokehold.
The guy with the red hat, he put me down on the ground at the same time as the other guy, and then it just happened fast, so wasn't sure what was going on at all.
He said he was struck in the face and the ribs. The police say Webster was the man who struck Mr Nam Kung. Under cross-examination from Mr Pilditch, he confirmed he was guessing about what happened.
But what are the chances of getting that kind of pain from anything else? Especially once you've been put onto the ground and someone taunting you, wanting to fight. I'm sure everyone else can kind of guess,
Webster left the Breakers and signed with the Perth Wildcats earlier this year. He's set to fly to Dallas to trial for the Mavericks in the NBA Summer League. Another man, Tane Houston, pleaded guilty to an assault charge and behaving in an offensive manner. He'll seek a discharge without conviction and has apologised to the complainant. Mo te hōtaka o te ahi ko Edward Gay ahau.
The US Supreme Court has handed a partial victory to the Trump administration by lifting some lower court orders blocking the president's controversial travel ban. America's highest court says the ban could be temporarily implemented, pending its final decision, which is expected later this year. Trump's executive orders sought to ban people from Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria and Yemen, and to suspend the US refugee program. The BBC's Tim Orman reports.
It's big stuff.
It was one of Donald Trump's first acts as president, his controversial travel ban. The reaction was immediate, protests springing up at airports across America.
No fascist USA!
Soon, the court stepped in, suspending the ban, forcing the president to rewrite his executive order. Now, the Supreme Court has said parts of that order can be implemented, at least for now. Travellers from the named countries who don't have what's described as a bona fide relationship with a person or entity in the United States can be barred from entering America. The president, as so often, took to social media, tweeting that he was very grateful for the 9-0 decision from the US Supreme Court. We must keep America safe, he added. Civil rights groups say they will continue to fight a ban they see as unconstitutional and un-American.
He thinks Islam hates us, that we have a problem with Muslims in the United States, and that he wants to see a reduction or a halt of Muslim immigration to the United States. And that's fundamentally incompatible with our Constitution.
And how do Muslims themselves respond to a ban that many claim is aimed at their religion?
You know, as a practicing Muslim American, I can tell you that ISIS does not represent Islam. And so seeing this travel ban and seeing how some people are, you know, advocating for this ban, it's concerning for me.
They need to take the security measures because it's not a good time over right now. But still, they can't just, ban everybody. They should, take some security measures and allow good people to come in and allow take the bad people out.
This temporary partial travel ban will be introduced in the next few days. The Supreme Court says it will make a final decision on full implementation in October.
That's Tim Orman from the BBC. Let's stay with the BBC's excellent reporting team. The British Prime Minister Theresa May has finally struck an agreement to prop up her minority Conservative government, but the deal with Northern Ireland's Democratic Unionist Party comes at a cost. A serious cost. Northern Ireland gets £1 billion of extra spending while some key Conservative Party policies have been abandoned. From Westminster, the BBC's Laura Koonsberg has this report.
18 days since the election, nearly 3 weeks of waiting. A political lifetime for the Prime Minister.
Deal or no deal, Mrs Foster?
But the DUP, power on their side, have been taking their time. Not just friends, but this a snap of a political family now. A deal agreed at the cabinet table, no less.
We also share the desire to ensure that there's a strong government able to put through the programme.
A strong government? Well, less wobbly, perhaps. The Northern Irish Party promising their votes in Parliament to prop up Theresa May. That gives her just a majority. This is what they get in return.
Following our discussions, the Conservative Party has recognised the case for higher funding in Northern Ireland, given our unique history and indeed circumstances over recent decades. Today we have reached an outcome that is good for the United Kingdom.
The Tories have promised the DUP an extra £1 billion of taxpayers' cash for Northern Ireland over the next 2 years to spend on infrastructure, health or education projects. And the Tories have had to drop their idea of means testing winter fuel payments for the elderly and making changes to pensions. But in return, the 10 DUP MPs will back the Tories on big votes, like the Queen's speech or the budget.
So I'm used to signing my life away. Well, I have to say.
The election threw the Tory majority away. Theresa May would never have chosen this scenario. But they've signed on the dotted line, so they have something to count on, knowing full well other parts of the UK will be angry. This is not Northern Irish control of Parliament. It's about being able to make Westminster work at all. Ministers knew criticism would come, Are they prepared?
I'm not against investment in Northern Ireland. I welcome investment in infrastructure and public services, but there ought to be fairness. If there's investment coming to Northern Ireland, Scotland should be getting its fair share.
The extra cash might help resurrect joint rule in Northern Ireland, but it just wouldn't have happened if they hadn't agreed to back Theresa May. This small group might not be familiar, but they're now part of the power behind a shaky throne.
That's Laura Koonsberg reporting. It's 5.5 minutes to 6. You are with Checkpoint on RNZ. Thank you for being with us. Let's head to Christchurch now, where the suburb of New Brighton was hit hard by the earthquakes, of course. Roads that still haven't been fixed and many families still struggling. But one local is trying to help by opening a community fridge. It's the first of its kind in the South Island, where anyone can pick up food for free. These are taking off in some parts of the world, and Logan Church went along for the grand unveiling.
Tucked beside the earthquake-damaged St Faith's Church in New Brighton is an inconspicuous garden shed. But this is not just any old shed. Inside, there's a fridge and set of shelves stocked with food donated by locals, cafes and the nearby supermarket to be given away for nothing. Its founder, Trudy Burrows, hopes the opening of New Zealand's second community fridge will help address several issues in her community.
Some people address it like as it's surplus food, so it's a good way to look at waste. I'm more passionate, probably more about feeding the hungry, and I have become more aware though of how much excess food there actually is around.
Trudy Burrows says she got the idea after reading about a similar setup in Auckland several years ago. She says the idea grew from there, with the help of the New Brighton community.
I kept thinking about it, so I thought, well, why not, let's try it. Initially it was supposed to be just a fridge, and then we ordered the shed, and the shed is actually bigger than what I thought it would be in real life, so we decided we'd do a pantry as well.
Over the last month, Miss Burrows has been out door-knocking local cafes and supermarkets asking for leftover food. She's surprised at how positive the response has been.
Honestly, there's only been one that couldn't provide food, and that's really only because they're a franchise and that's their New Zealand company policy. So, but everyone else has been totally on board.
One of those to sign up is Honey Cafe, whose owner, Sophie Barry, says her cafe always has leftover food.
I normally give it to my neighbours, and all my staff, but I think it's kind of good. You do have that fridge, so I can put someone needed more. Normally muffins, scone, maybe pies.
Locals are also full of praise for the idea.
Anything that supports community is good in my opinion. I think it's probably needed everywhere, opportunities for people to get what they need in life.
A lot of people go hungry, and I don't think, no matter who gets in as government, it'll always be the same, because nobody seems to care.
It's good, I talked with my friend about the New Brighton area need maybe something new, refresh.
Because I'm hoping it will recycle some food that would otherwise be wasted.
Do you think there's a bit of a problem with food waste?
Huge. I read the other day that the world wastes a third of our food that's produced, and that's not even counting all the resources that go into growing it.
Trudy Burrows has funded most of the cost herself so far, but has approached her local community board for funding. She hopes the concept will catch on, and other community fridges will pop up in Christchurch.
Hopefully we can get more of it here, and those that actually need it will find out about it and just come and help themselves.
To that end, Trudy Burrows has launched a Give a Little page to help fund the fridge into the future. In Otatahi for Checkpoint, Ko Logan Church, Tēnei.
2 minutes to 6 in breaking news. Auckland's Waitamata police say they're currently searching for Lusitano Seliseli, who escaped from corrections custody while attending a funeral last Thursday. Lusitano was on compassionate temporary escort from Spring Hills Correction Facility when he escaped. Police say he's a 41-year-old Pacific Islander of large build. It's believed he's with his partner Jacinta Sale, who has 2 warrants for her arrest for driving while disqualified. She's described as a female Pacific Islander around 178 centimetres and of medium build. Both Lusitano and Jacinta are believed to be using a white Holden combo van, registration CYN 814. It's believed they are in the Waitakere area. A few people are commenting about the America's Cup, saying, who cares? Actually, it does For people who aren't interested, they're really not interested in the man who said he was disgusted by our coverage, our disgusting coverage. Thank you for that feedback. So just looking at how it's being covered overseas, and I've gone to a couple of broadsheets. New York Times gone pretty big on it. A lovely article that begins, many a well-financed maritime expedition has come to grief through centuries in the treacherous and deep blue waters off Bermuda. Oracle Team USA joined the list on Monday. Fantastic writing from the New York Times. So too in The Guardian, of course, there was a British team involved. BAR eliminated fairly early on, but they are also reflecting on what, by the standards of the America's Cup, certainly not relative to other sports, is seen as a bit of a David against Goliath battle. New Zealand beating Oracle to win. Thank you for being with us on Checkpoint. Thank you for your feedback. Even if you do think we're disgusting, you can text us on 2101 and you can email checkpoint@radionz.co.nz. It is time for the not disgusting pips. 6 o'clock.
RNZ News at 6 o'clock. Good evening, I'm Anna Thomas. Auckland is celebrating Team New Zealand's America's Cup victory right now with a big fireworks display at the Viaduct. Our reporter Sarah Robson is there.
The fireworks haven't quite gone off yet, but there are some sirens sounding from some boats out in the Viaduct. There are hundreds of people down here waiting to watch the fireworks to celebrate Team New Zealand's victory. There are lots of families down here to watch, and there are plenty of people filling the bars and eateries around here at the waterfront. It'll be up to Team New Zealand to decide where the next America's Cup will be held, but Auckland looks to be the likely pick. Auckland hosted the Cup last hosted the Cup in 2003 when Team New Zealand lost the Cup to the Swiss syndicate Alingi. And as well as tonight's fireworks, which should be about to start, there'll be a victory parade when the team returns next week.
At the Viaduct, Sarah Robson. And the head of the victorious Team New Zealand has taken a swipe at the former holders of the America's Cup, saying Team USA tried to spend its way to victory. Grant Dalton says when New Zealand held the Cup, no one could say the competitions were not fair. But he told Checkpoint that ethos appears to have been lost.
The defender used money as a weapon. Now, this is the America's Cup and it isn't going to ever be cheap. But money should not be a weapon. You shouldn't be able to just simply completely outspend everybody at all costs. You should not be able to manipulate the rules after the rules are set. I just fundamentally don't agree with it. It doesn't happen in any other sport.
Grant Dalton says the principles of fair play and fair cost contained in the America's Cup deed of gift need to be upheld. The Prime Minister has faced fresh questions in Parliament about what was discussed in the recording at the centre of the Todd Barclay controversy. The police have reopened their investigation into allegations the Clutha Southland MP secretly recorded staff in his electorate office. The case was closed last year because they considered they had insufficient evidence to prosecute Mr Barclay, who declined to be questioned. The Labour leader Andrew Little put this question to Bill English in Parliament this afternoon.
Given the contents of the tapes have now been revealed to concern Todd Barclay and sex and drug matters, does he accept the tapes exist, and when was he aware of their contents?
I've no comment to add to what comment's been made.
Bill English responding to Andrew Little in Parliament. The American firm that supplied the cladding used on London's Grenfell Tower says it has stopped global sales of the product for use in high-rise blocks. Arconic says it's discontinuing the sale of Rhinobond PE for tower blocks because of what it calls issues identified by the fire in the tower, which killed at least 79 people. The British government says 75 buildings and 26 council areas have now failed fire safety tests done since the fire. New official estimates show 22 million more Americans will lose health insurance under the proposed Republican legislation to replace Obamacare. The draft legislation was unveiled by Senate Republicans last week. Our correspondent Priscilla Huff reports.
Just let O'Care crash and burn. That's what U.S. President Donald Trump tweeted about the Affordable Care Act. President Trump has also said the House bill to repeal and replace the original legislation is mean, and he wants something with heart. But the Bipartisan Congressional Budget Office says the version up for a vote in the U.S. Senate will mean 22 million Americans will lose their insurance, even if it might save some money for the federal government. And the American Medical Association says the legislation violates the basic doctor's promise to first do no harm. At least 5 Republican senators have expressed their opposition to the bill. Priscilla Huff, RNZ News, Washington.
2 of the foreign volunteers in Labour's troubled intern scheme may have broken immigration laws. More than 80 young people, mostly from the United States, came to New Zealand as part of a Campaign for Change program run by Labour's former Chief of Staff Matt McCartan. Here's our political reporter Craig McCulloch.
Labour's head office took over the program last week after it began spinning out of control. The General Secretary, Andrew Curtin, says it's now learnt that 2 of the volunteers may have been in the country on incorrect visas. He says both chose to leave the program last week and all the other interns are here legally. Labour says it understands all participants were told they needed to obtain working holiday visas. From Parliament, Craig McCulloch.
The Dunedin City Council is proposing to limit freedom camping to self-contained vehicles. At a meeting today, councillors were told the current bylaw is not working because more than 300 complaints have been made by residents near the only 2 places open for freedom camping, the Warrington Domain and Ocean View Reserve. More than 11,000 vehicles camped in the Domain alone last summer, although its community board says it's happy to have them there. The council will seek the public's views in July with a view to making a final decision by October. It's 6:05. To sport, and the head of Yachting New Zealand would like to see America's Cup racing return to a monohull event. David Abercrombie, who's in Bermuda, says he expects significant changes for the next regatta in Auckland in 4 years' time.
I would like to see perhaps a foiling monohull around 50, 55 feet. That's still exciting, but I think you're also going to see residency rules come in whereby 80% of the crew have to be from the challenging nation.
David Abercrombie. All Blacks flanker Jerome Kaino has hit back at comments made by Lions coach Warren Gatland. Gatland believes halfback Connor Murray was the victim of unfair targeting and took aim at the All Blacks players who he believes were diving blindly at Murray's legs and putting him at risk of injury. Kaino disagrees.
It's never our intent to go out and intentionally injure someone outside the laws. You know, we play hard and we play fair, but you know that incident was a one-off, and it's never our intention to go out and try and single anyone out.
Jerome Kaino, and that's the news.
Tonight on Nights, Gian S. Kazaki on the architecture of hospitals and how he moved from every room having a window to rooms with none. Not sure that's an improvement, but Ms. Kazaki will explain. There's a window on the world of the German army, not what it used to be. Thank goodness. While Worlds of Music sees Trevor Reekie speaking with the American jazz vocalist Gregory Porter on Nights with me, Brian Crump, from after the news at 7 on RNZ National.
And now the short forecast from Met Service to midnight tomorrow from Northland to Waitomo, including the Coromandel, Bay of Plenty and the Central High Country. Mainly fine with showers about the Coromandel Peninsula tomorrow. Gisborne and Hawke's Bay, a few showers about Gisborne and the Wairoa district, fine elsewhere. Taranaki to Wellington, also wided up. Cloud increasing this evening with isolated showers, becoming fine north of Wellington and wided up tomorrow afternoon. Nelson and Marlborough, cloud increasing tomorrow with scattered showers in the evening. For Canterbury, a few spots of rain, clearing tomorrow afternoon. Bulla and Westland, occasional rain tomorrow, but clearing south of Hokitika. Otago, Southland and Fiordland, isolated showers with areas of frost or fog tomorrow morning. And you have cloudy periods in the Chatham Islands. RNZ National, it is 6:08. You're listening to Checkpoint with John Campbell.
Thank you very much indeed, Anna Thomas. New Zealand has won the America's Cup, although technically it was 8-1, the final score. The official score was 7-1, almost whitewashing Oracle Team USA with a revolutionary boat, a team of cyclors. and a new superstar sailor to avenge what was a pretty awful defeat 4 years ago. Remember, they were 8-1 up. Anyway, the Cup will return to New Zealand next week for the first time in 14 years, a triumph for the team, its designers and its builders. A dominant Emirates Team New Zealand claimed international sport's oldest trophy by 7-1 in Bermuda's Great Sound, with 26-year-old Peter Burling becoming the youngest helmsman to secure sailing's biggest prize. And in doing so, Burling usurped New Zealand's nemesis, Oracle Team USA skipper Jimmy Spittle, who won the Cup in 2010, aged 30.
Oh, it's just sinking in, and as a Kiwi growing up back home, watching our country compete for the America's Cup, and to be able to do that at a pretty young age and to bring it back home was, just an unreal feeling. And, the amount of support we've had here in the crowd, the amount of support we've got back home, just blows us away. And we're really excited now to be able to share it with all those guys.
The America's Cup, named after the schooner America, which won it in 1851 off the south coast of England, has only been held by 4 countries so far: the US, of course, Australia, New Zealand and Switzerland. New Zealand won the right to take on the US by beating 4 other challengers, using cycling sailors known as cyclaws to provide pedal power to control their foiling 15-metre cats, vast wing sail and hydrofoils. The New Zealand crew have been on a mission to wipe out the hurt inflicted on the sports-mad country by the team, who in 2013 turned an 8-1 deficit against New Zealand into a 9-8 victory. But Oracle skipper Jimmy Spittle was gracious in defeat today.
I think it hasn't sunk in. It's definitely weird looking at the trophy and, thinking, geez, we just lost that. But on the flip side, I think we've really got to take our hats off to Emirates Team New Zealand. I mean, what an incredible team and what an incredible job. When you really look at their campaign, I don't think they really had any weaknesses coming into the match. I think a lot of us were thinking, well, maybe the fact they've been down there on their own and they don't have the race practice that the rest of the teams had here may hurt them. But I think they really did a great job during the qualifiers, and maybe they weren't as sharp in the qualifiers, but certainly in the semis and finals, I think we saw them really sharpen that up. And yeah, look, it just an incredible nation, and pretty impressive that they've been able to pull it off again. And all I can do is just say, massive respect to the entire team, and the better team won.
New Zealand skipper Glenn Ashby, who has a low-key but critical role on board trimming the giant wing with a games console-type device, was the only one of the crew beaten in 2013 who took part in this year's winning combination. Our reporter Todd Nile has been in Bermuda since the competition began. I spoke to him a short time ago via Skype video, and he told me what it was like to be there when Team New Zealand won.
It was pretty exciting stuff, I have to say, but it was also slightly unusual. And I've talked to somebody else about this who had the same feeling. You expected beforehand that you would be, you wouldn't be able to stop yourself from dancing all night in the streets with everybody else, and that you'd wake up the next morning and you keep going. But oddly, after the ceremony was over and everybody dissipated, it was kind of like winning the Rugby World Cup. You felt, oh, great, order has been restored. We've won the America's Cup. That's the way things are meant to be, and life goes on. So it was a bit odd.
Yes, we've spoken to Peter Burling, who was just delighted. Grant Dalton seemed very matter-of-fact, almost looking forward rather than back. And I guess the issue now is New Zealand's a custodian of this wonderful trophy, right? And already the talk is settling on what New Zealand does to get it right.
Yeah, and that's the strange thing that happens at this point of the Cup. We keep talking to the sailors and the people who are involved with the boat, and all they say is, look, we're just focused on the next race. We're not thinking about anything else at all. And yet clearly in the back room, Grant Dalton is there and he's meeting with Ernesto Bertarelli and he's communicating with the Italians and starting to work already on what the next Cup would be if the sailors actually do the job. And that is the focus now. It could be a few weeks before we get much more detail, but he's already giving a hint that the next Cup will be in significant ways different to this one.
Yeah, which is an exciting prospect, I guess. Let's talk about what the point of difference was or were, because there were plural points of difference, right? What made Team New Zealand so much better than Oracle?
The line that they're giving us today is right from the start. they decided that with the boat design, when they looked at the format of the boats and what they could do, that they almost had to leapfrog into, not what would they normally do with a boat of this design, but if they were then to go almost one generation further with it, what would it be? And so Grant Dalton talking of Glen Ashby saying, no, don't go out hiring traditional grinders. And this is obviously the genesis of where having the cyclists come in, which was apparently very important. The ability to generate that hydraulic power apparently was significant. And we hear other things about the foil design. They got one of the world's top foil designers in it and really pushed that foil design envelope to the point where, there were some questions about really how strong some of those foils were. They were out on the edge of, strength versus performance.
Peter Burling, at 26, he's won the America's Cup, he's won a gold medal at the Olympics, he's won World Championships. What does he do now? He is extraordinary, isn't he?
Yeah, and Russell Coutts, for reasons that the conspiracy theorists wonder about, has really talked up Peter Burling as, one of the greats in the new generation of sailors on the world stage. I asked Peter Burling today, what is his future? Is he in for the defence with Team New Zealand? And to be honest, he said, look, he hadn't thought that far ahead. You assume he probably is. And Blair Tuke, his, sailing partner from the Olympic stage that they did, does seem to want to stay with the team, to stay with the New Zealand team. And that national pride is something Peter Burling talked about. But yeah, you can bet that phone will be ringing, regardless of whether he's thought about it or not. Although maybe less so now if it's not clear whether these foiling catamarans are going to be part of the next America's Cup, which they may not in the form that they are now.
Todd Noel, who's been doing a fantastic job covering the America's Cup from Bermuda, the poor bugger. While the cheers rang out from the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron in Auckland this morning, around the country people gathered in yacht clubs, living rooms, workplaces to celebrate Team New Zealand's victory. Bleary-eyed supporters were on high alert from early this morning, quietly hoping that a win was within the team's grasp, but also, of course, mindful of the eye-watering loss in San Francisco 4 years ago. Within minutes of Team New Zealand skimming across the line, the talk turned to what it might mean for the rest of the country. Here's Tracy Neal with this report.
Around the country there was a large collective sigh of relief amid the cheers and applause as Team New Zealand crossed the finish line.
They talked about San Fran being the greatest comeback in sport. Beg to differ, I think. To come back from that and to beat Oracle this way, that's the bigger comeback.
Oh, it's fantastic for New Zealand. It's really good for sailing, and it'll be absolutely fantastic for the youth.
It's got me up at some ungodly hour every morning.
Because, of course, Peter Burling, local boy, we would like to welcome back here to Tauranga in style.
It's closure. It makes it right. It makes the last loss not seem so bad.
In Tauranga, residents were out in force on the Strand to cheer on hometown hero Peter Burling, who became the youngest helmsman to win the America's Cup at the age of 26. Black Cap, Kane Williamson and Peter Burling were head boy and deputy head boy during the same year at college, and Deputy Mayor Kelvin Clout couldn't be prouder.
Oh, we're very proud. He went to Tauranga Boys College, and I think he was the same year as Kane Williamson, and they shared a good sort of sporting rivalry, and they've both done so fantastically well. And so we're very, very proud of him being a local lad.
As the old mug was handed over in Bermuda, talk quickly turned to the shape of the next event on home soil. The Prime Minister, Bill English, who posted a picture of himself on Facebook watching the race at home on a zebra-striped beanbag wearing red socks, says it's too early to start talking about the government's contribution to the next campaign. The government contributed $5 million while the syndicate was preparing for this year's event, but today Mr English just wanted to revel in the win.
Oh, look, fantastic demonstration of actually a very long-standing yachting tradition, this combination of technology, teamwork, and in this case some pretty youthful leadership, which was performed remarkably well under pressure.
An Auckland boat builder who helped create Team New Zealand's winning catamaran says plans to hold the next America's Cup back in Auckland will give a massive boost to the marine industry. Southern Spa's General Manager Peter Batchelor says the benefits will be spread wider than just the city of Sales.
Because apart from the boats, there's an enormous amount of backroom support vehicles, support vessels, designers involved in the industry that will be brought to bear in New Zealand if and when the Cup is sailed here.
At the Tasman Bay Cruising Club in Nelson this morning, sailors and supporters were already turning their minds to what hosting the Cup could mean for regional New Zealand. Bruce Lyons, who owns and operates Diving Services New Zealand, says it's not just the marine industry that will benefit.
For Nelson especially, I think it's completely underestimated. Like, people don't just come to see Auckland while they're here, they'll all rip down here and see how awesome it is.
Pedro Morgan, the Commodore of the Royal Port Nicholson Yacht Club in Wellington, which was packed out with fans who erupted in celebration this morning, was keen to highlight the contribution of Josh Jr. The Olympic sailor turned cyclor helped power the boat's cutting-edge hydraulics.
I think it's a big deal for us and it's a big deal for all of Wellington. He came through the Worcester Bay Boating Club, which is a sister club of ours in Wellington, and raced in our youth program here for a number of years, so we're very proud of him.
Pride that today was shared around the country. For Checkpoint, Tracy Neal.
6:19, the Lions midweek players will have possibly their last game on tour tonight unless they do something special as they take on the Hurricanes in the capital. As for the home side, they have 4 All Blacks players involved who will be pushing for selection in the starting side for the second test or even in the 23. They're fighting for places. There will be a sellout crowd at Westpac Stadium tonight. Our sports reporter Barry Guy is outside on the live view. I wish I was with you, Barry. Oh, it's going to be a cracker of a game. What are the conditions like, first of all?
Yeah, good, actually, John. I can see the stars. There's hardly any wind, and we had some rain earlier in the week, so underfoot might be a little bit soft, but it's not going to be wet, and we're all set for, an exciting night, hopefully. Yeah, lots of Lions fans there. I hear they're turning Wellington red. Yeah, exactly. I wandered downtown on my way to the stadium this morning just to check it out, and then again this evening. And they're all over the place. They're spending lots of money. They were filling the bars just earlier, a couple of hours ago, and they're now coming in now. I think there's something like 15,000, 20,000 of them that are here. If so, they all come to this game. They're going to drown the blimmin' Hurricane supporters tonight. It's going to be more red than yellow and black, I think. So, great for the economy, great for Wellington, and everyone seems to be in a really good mood. Let's hope by 10 o'clock tonight or even Sunday morning after the second test that they're not in such a joyous mood, perhaps. Yeah, it's exciting. They really bring something as away fans. Let's talk about the Hurricanes team. They're missing at 9 and 10 TJ Perenara and Beauden Barrett, and they really do set teams on fire when they're playing for them. So that is problematic. But if we look at their three quarters, Julian Savea, Nani Laumape, Vince Aso, Nehi Milner-Skudder and Geordie Barrett, boy, that's an exciting three-quarter line, isn't it? It's wonderful, but I just wonder how much ball they're actually going to get, because we've noticed from the Lions the last couple of weeks that they can strangle the possession for the opposition. And Chris Boyd, the Hurricanes coach, John Plumtree, they both said that that will be a problem for them. They're hoping to get ball from turnovers and, and mauls and ruck and that sort of thing. But again, that's problematic because that's where you can give away penalties. The Lions will then kick to the corner or kick for goal and put pressure on you once again. So, as you said, Tahuru Rangi at halfback and Terry Black at first five, big games for them, because if they want to set those three quarters alight, then, I do think the Hurricanes will have difficulties tonight, and it'll be a great result if they get up over the Lions. Yeah, it's a big ask. Just before you go, you mentioned Chris Boyd, the Hurricanes coach, really good coach. It's a milestone for him and former All Black Cory Jane, who was just a wonderful fellow on and off the field. Big night for them both. Yeah, well, Cory Jane, firstly, he's such a stalwart of Wellington rugby and a bit of a comic as well. He was in the reserves when the Wellington Lions played the Lions in 2005, so he's the only survivor of that. He's in the reserves tonight, and I'm sure he'll get on and get to play. And Chris Boyd, this is the third time he's coached against the British and Irish Lions. He was the coach in 2005 for the Wellington game. He then went off to South Africa. He coached the Sharks when they played the Touring Lions in 2009, and again he's coached tonight. He hasn't had a win yet, so I'm pretty sure he'll be hoping to get on the right side of the ledger this evening.
Right, Barry, very quickly pick a score for us.
22-12 to the Hurricanes.
Oh, good man. Barry Guy saying the right things live from the stadium in Wellington. It's coming up to 24 minutes past 6. We thought we'd give the last word tonight to the mum of Helmsman, Peter Burling, this remarkable 26-year-old. He's won an Olympic gold. He's been a world champ. Now he's America's Cup winner. Heather Burling is in Bermuda supporting Team New Zealand. While she's as proud as punch of her son's achievement, of course, she says it's a victory earned by the whole team, both on and off the water.
I think one of the amazing things about being here, rather than seeing it from afar, is you feel the whole mass of the team behind Peter. Like, Peter's the one with his hand on the handlebars, and he's the one who's making the decisions around the race course, and he's done an amazing, amazing job, don't get me wrong. But you see the boat builders who've worked 20-hour days, 22-hour days to give them the tool that they can work with, especially after the capsize. And you see the designers who've poured their hearts into, the design, and you see, that whole mass of a team that you probably don't see in the media quite so much. And, to feel every single one of them bursting with pride for what they've managed to achieve, and their wives and their little kids, again, just bursting with pride. That was really, really awesome. And Pete's the figurehead of that, and it couldn't have happened without Pete, but there's so many other people it couldn't have happened without as well.
Can we talk about him when he was how old? 6? In Welcome Bay?
When he got his first boat.
Well, yeah, jelly tip, right? A wooden optimist?
Yeah. My husband sailed when he was a kid, and he was keen that the kids would learn to sail, but it was sort of, like if we go skiing to enjoy ourselves. We had no ambitions of sailing or any of racing or, winning Olympic medals or winning America's Cups. All we were doing was taking the kids down to Welcome Bay Estuary when it was high tide and just mucking around in boats.
Yeah.
And, the kids just loved mucking around in boats. But, it was probably a couple of years after that our older son wanted a bigger boat, as in he wanted a P class. And the guy who sold us the P class told us we should go to the yacht club. And so we turned up at Tauranga Yacht Club, which is an awesome, awesome club. And Pete just got very, very good very, very quickly.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? He was a prodigious talent from a very young age.
He probably, when he was winning most of the sort of optimist stuff, which is under 16 in the Bay of Plenty. When he was, there wasn't a huge fleet, but when he was sort of 8 or 9, when he was 11, he was second in the under 16 nationals, and that's when he sort of, his profile and his trajectory really took off, if you like. And from there, he won the 420 Worlds when he was 15. He went to the Olympics when he was 17. He's the youngest ever 49er medalist when he was 21. Youngest ever gold medalist for 49er, last year in Rio. It's just been an insane trajectory that he's been on, really.
And the extraordinary thing for me is that it hasn't gone to his head. He was a precocious talent, but he wasn't precocious about it. He has remained against the odds, level-headed.
That's one of the things I'm most proud of is that he's still just Pete. He's just that kid who likes walking around in bare feet, and, he's just down to earth Pete. And, he's an ordinary kid from an ordinary family. There's nothing special about this path we put him on, or we didn't put him on a path, but, nothing really different from any other kid who's got talent. They can do it. And I think Pete's proudly, passionately Kiwi as well. I remember when we went to the Canary Islands when he was young, and he was like, it was his first Optimist World trip was to the Canary Islands, and the second one actually. And you know, he's like, do people come on holiday here? And we're like, yeah, you know, people go on holiday here. He's like, they must live somewhere really awful. You know, he just loves New Zealand, loves coming home. New Zealand will always be home.
That's a great story. Can you tell us about the party? What was it like? Because we were talking to Grant Dalton before and he said the America's Cup was being passed around as if it were a game of touch rugby. What was it like to be there at that?
Well, it's really, yeah, it was really cool. I mean, it's incredibly hot here. It's an incredibly humid day. So we're all pretty knackered and probably a bit dehydrated. But, you know, you see the America's Cup in all the photos and it's only handled by people with white gloves on and all that kind of stuff. I think probably apart from my husband and myself, it seemed like and probably Peter, every single person there was having selfies with the cup and picking up the cup and, you know, and there's this poor security guard standing beside it looking, you know, more and more drawn. And in the end, I think the cup went off to wherever the cup goes to about, an hour or two ago. But the party's still rolling on.
Heather Burling talking about being there to support her son, Helmsman Peter. Lots of feedback tonight, fairly polarised around the America's Cup, although once we said people were saying it was disgusting how much coverage we were giving it pro-America's Cup, people stepped up and sent in feedback. This from Paul, all BS aside, he didn't actually say BS, he wrote the full word, but we're still on national radio here. Surely this is a great thing for our country. We're moving into a high-tech world, as you well know, and this is a Kiwi high-tech at its very best being projected to the rest of the world. I'm proud that this cat had the name Team New Zealand on it, and this crew of people from the techs to the engineers to the boat builders and sailing crew have done us proud. Bless them all. The only criticism I would have is that even with the government funding, there was no other option to watch it but Sky TV. Never mind. We should also say, Paul, that lots of the other boats were built here in New Zealand too, like Oracle, for example. Team New Zealand are world-class and deserve recognition. Can we have more America's Cup coverage? You're just staring, you are. Great America's Cup coverage, thank you. Ignore the naysayers, it's a Kiwi effort. We should be celebrating, but we're going to end with Chris from Koroi, who says, John, I'd suggest in the 12 years since we last held the Cup, the gap between, I think it's 14, the gap between rich and poor has widened considerably. It's a lot harder to buy into these games of the wealthy when you can't even see yourself owning just one home, let alone a boat of any size. Chris from Cory, whatever your opinions are, thank you for your feedback. We'll see you tomorrow at 5.
RNZ News headlines at 6:30. Auckland is celebrating Team New Zealand's America's Cup victory with a big fireworks display on the waterfront. The head of the Kiwi Cup campaign has taken a swipe at Team USA, saying it tried to spend its way to victory. The Prime Minister, Bill English, has faced pointed questions in Parliament after the recording at the centre of the Todd Barclay controversy. And Labour admits 2 foreign volunteers in its troubled intern scheme may have broken immigration laws. Our next news and weather at 7.
A pastoral past and a digital future occupy the same space and time in the music of British trio Alt J. I'm Nick Bollinger and I'll be discussing their messy but majestic new album in the sampler. We'll have a listen to the skin-tingling pop of Wellington's Glass Vaults and the final songs